Today, we're going to be talking about cultivating brain health and optimal functioning after antidepressants and other psychotropic medications. And I'm going to begin this video, and you can see it in the in-depth article itself. There's a disclaimer, and I'll be reading some sections from this or much of it because there's so much detailed information. It'd be just humanly impossible to remember it all. But anyway, I'm not a licensed psychiatrist, physician, and the information in this article is based on personal experience and observation, insights gained through working with thousands of people over the years. So it's not intended to replace professional medical diagnoses or treatment. So if you're currently taking antidepressants or other psychotropic meds and you're considering discontinuing them, it's critical that you consult with a licensed medical healthcare practitioner who can guide you through the process safely. So with that being said, let's dive into what I've written here. A little background, I spent years training with a traditional Native American doctor who passed on portions of his own healing gifts to me. And from there, he had me go on the vision quest. It involves fasting the 4 days and nights, alone in the mountains without food and water. This is how you earn the right to work with these gifts of healing. And then over the years, I gradually developed my capacities to work with people with a wide range of health issues, anything from heart disease and stroke and digestive and respiratory disorders. I had a very limited understanding of these issues starting out, but it was very much a learn as you go or learn as I go process. As I continue to work with people and observing the changes, observing how each individual would respond, some conditions or health issues more so than others, that gained enormous amounts of insight. And so over the years, I'd have people coming to me who were maybe they were on antidepressants or anti-anxiety meds, including benzodiazepines or antipsychotics and mood stabilizers, which are commonly prescribed for those with bipolar disorder. And I've helped many of these individuals to get to a place where they can function to a much greater degree and often reducing their dependency, like decreasing the dosage and also getting off the meds altogether. And in many instances, I'm seeing these people get to a place where they're functioning better in their lives. So I just want to go into depth about my experiences working with these people over the years. Since I began my practice in the late 1980s, people have been reaching out to me with a wide range of health-related issues, and from heart disease and stroke and digestive and respiratory disorders, people suffering from anxiety, depression, those who endured various traumatic experiences, childhood emotional, verbal, physical, sexual abuse, sexual assault, or combat-related PTSD, as well as those who were in the midst of a breakup or divorce, who've been ghosted, going through some other kind of relational torment. And every now and then I encounter those individuals with more serious psychiatric issues, for instance, like hearing voices and experiencing paranoid delusions and believing even they are under attack by some kind of entities. Early in my practice, a few individuals that I worked with were suffering from schizophrenia, and they appeared to be having an adverse reaction to the individual sessions that I facilitated. So initially, I assumed that, well, maybe I wouldn't be able to help these individuals. But as time went on, some others approached me, and I found as I was working with them that they were becoming more grounded, more present in their bodies, more functional in their lives. They were greater degree of mental clarity. They were functioning better emotionally. They were able to process whatever was going on with them emotionally or whatever issues they were struggling with. And they were able to reduce and in some instances even get off of the medications. And I was amazed to see the difference. In seeing these changes, I felt more optimistic and more open to seeing what I could do to assist those individuals who would come to me. Since that time, I've worked with many who were either taking antidepressants, anti anxiety meds, including benzodiazepines, antipsychotics, or some combination thereof. And even though it's not a good idea, you have those who are also, while taking the meds, also drinking or using other recreational drugs. One of the things I couldn't help but notice is the extent to where these medications and the recreational drugs or the combination thereof were interfering the brain and the body's ability to process one's lived experiences and their subsequent cognitive and emotional responses. Whenever I scan a person's body, I consistently sense the parts of the mind along with the corresponding intellectual and emotional range that are either impaired, disengaged, or entirely shut down. And then as I work with these individuals on the table, I could often feel a very thick, heavy, and stagnant presence in various parts of their body, and especially within their abdomen. Like other indigenous healers, I work as a conduit, allowing an extraordinarily powerful presence to work through me to facilitate healing within people's bodies and minds. And what I could sense working with these individuals is that their bodies and minds are far less responsive because of the impediment created by, again, either the psychotropic medications or the fact that they're self medicating or the combination thereof. And this greatly limits the extent to which we could facilitate the much needed healing and transformation. Conversely, I've also noted that as many of these individuals that I've worked with, as they've reduced the dosage of the medications or they were able to transition off of them completely, I can see and feel a significant, if not dramatic, increase in responsiveness. And this heightened responsiveness, our increased malleability, enables us to work at much deeper levels, facilitating greater healing and transformation within their bodies and minds. To some degree, there's a numbing desensitization or disconnect that occurs within all of us. We all numb, suppress, avoid unpleasant emotions. We distract ourselves or even outright deny those issues or whatever it is that we don't want to deal with. And we also employ more sophisticated defense mechanisms to block out certain traumatic events. Numbing can also result from consumption of unhealthy foods and pharmaceuticals, recreational drugs. Consequently, many people's levels of self awareness and their awareness of others and their surroundings is not particularly strong. And while it may be obvious to someone who's heavily medicated or to those with heightened sensitivity to recognize the signs, a person on these medications is to varying degrees flatlining or zombified, with their ability to function being significantly compromised. And yet, so many people lack the awareness to observe the effects of these medications. For me, possessing an acute sensitivity, I can see and feel the stresses and emotions held within their bodies and how these medications disengage parts of the body and mind and impede the ability of many of these individuals to function in their lives. While these medications may control certain symptoms, they impede the body and mind's natural processing capacity. What I notice working with people on these medications is that they're not fully digesting their lived experiences and subsequent cognitive and emotional responses. The residual stress, undigested emotions, and additional physical toxins that accumulate remain trapped within their bodies indefinitely. Now, this happens to some degree with everyone. Again, the fact that most of us are not doing all that well when it comes to thoroughly digesting our lived experiences and our subsequent cognitive and emotional responses. However, what I do notice is that the accumulation of the undigested impressions of all one's lived experiences, stresses that they internalize, the emotional responses that they haven't been able to digest, both emotional and cognitive, and the physical toxins, the accumulation that builds up within their bodies is far greater for those who are on these various psychotropic medications. And also, their bodies are far less responsive to the healing process I facilitate and to other therapeutic modalities. People who work with me individually tend to experience a wide range of feelings and bodily sensations. And one of the things I've noticed over the years is that those who have spent much of their lives numbing themselves to their emotions, and to an even greater extent, those on psychotropic medications, their sensitivity is greatly reduced. They're far less likely to be cognizant of any feelings or bodily sensations because these parts of their body and mind awareness are so disengaged. I have at times found it especially disappointing because I'm working really hard on behalf of these individuals. And despite all this hard work on my part, some have become so numbed out by the meds they're on that they can't feel or sense any changes occurring within their body. And there are times where I would ask them right after the work on the table, like, what did you feel? And in many instances, they may not realize that anything's happening. Yet I've also found that number of these individuals over the years, after they've decreased the dosage of the medication, or maybe they transition off the medication altogether, their awareness of the process occurring as a result of these individual sessions becomes much greater. They're much more aware of feelings and sensations, other internal processes occurring. And I've had some instances where an individual would say, wow, I didn't realize all this was going on during these sessions. One of the most concerning aspects of the use of psychotropic medications is the lasting effects they can have on the body and brain, even after the medications are discontinued. Psychotropic medications do alter brain chemistry, and the brain often doesn't revert back to its original state after an individual comes off of these drugs. And this is particularly problematic for individuals who started taking these medications during adolescence or even childhood because their brains were never given the opportunity to fully develop healthy neuronal activity, synaptic connections, or balanced levels of hormones and neurotransmitters. The developmental disruption could have long term consequences for emotional, cognitive, and physical functioning. There's such a wide range of harmful side effects with psychotropic meds, as well as all kinds of pharmaceuticals that people rely on. One not so commonly discussed side effect, for instance, of taking antidepressants is genital anesthesia. And that's the loss of the ability to experience sexual pleasure. And this can manifest as a numbing or complete lack of sensation in the genital areas, coupled with a diminishment or an absence of libido. And this genital anesthesia, in many instances, persists even after discontinuing the use of antidepressants. Antidepressants are commonly prescribed for conditions such as clinical depression, and yet depression has a number of underlying causes. And the medications may not be addressing these underlying causes. For instance, depression can result from an inflammatory response within the brain, which may be addressed with supplements and dietary changes that reduce inflammation and support healthy brain function. Most of us have experienced significant trauma and adversity over the course of our lives, whether verbal, emotional, physical, or childhood sexual abuse. Other forms of trauma, like sexual assault, are facing extraordinary, difficult life circumstances. And this could include the loss of a job, or a source of income, our difficulty even finding work, and the struggle to survive. Then there's the hell and heartache many of us experience or endure in our attempts to find love, going through breakup and divorce or being ghosted and other kinds of crazy making relational torment. The problem for so many of us is that we've never been taught how to, and we haven't learned how to work effectively with our emotional responses to all the trauma we've suffered, the adversity we've faced in our lives, and in many cases that we are continuing to live with. And the anxiety and the depression that many of us are experiencing or have experienced, it's a normal response to the suffering that we've endured. And this is one of the reasons I teach the series of intensive meditation practices where you start out closing your eyes, you're acknowledging whatever challenges, adversity, stresses you're dealing with. You bring that person, circumstance, situation right into the forefront of your awareness. You notice what you're feeling in response to it, where these feelings are situated within your body. Center your awareness in the depths of these feelings, breathing softly, deeply, following the feelings as they go through their progression. Again, you're allowing the feelings to be what they are without trying to change them or make them go away. You're not trying to make them be something else. Just breathe from the depths of these feelings and just continue to follow them. Working with this practice engages the innate healing intelligence residing within your own body and mind, helping you to digest both your lived experiences and your subsequent emotional responses, thereby reducing the stress, reducing the intensity of the distressing emotions. In this article, I'm sharing a few examples of people that I've worked with over the years. Sarah, for instance, reached out to me after she had undergone treatment for both breast and uterine cancer. She had also been taking antidepressants for 16 years. I think a lot of that stemmed from she'd gone through a very abusive marriage. She endured a fair amount of physical and emotional abuse during that time and had gone through quite a few other things. She never really knew how to deal with or process that. So when I started working with Sarah, she had this very flat effect emotionally. I'd look into her eyes and there was this sense of deadness. And at times, as I'd be speaking with her, it felt like talking with a piece of cardboard. Also, as I'd be working with her on the table, there was this very heavy, stagnant presence within her abdomen. Is like not all that responsive. But as I continued to work with Sarah, she became much more present, more engaged. Her expression, her whole demeanor became much more animated and expressive. I worked with Sarah for about 10 years and she remained in remission from the cancer all that time. Unfortunately, during the initial stages of the COVID pandemic, she contracted COVID and we lost her at that point. One of the things that concerns me most is when I work with individuals who are currently on or attempting to get off of or that have discontinued the use of benzodiazepines and antipsychotic medications. And that's largely because of their impact on the brain. Benzodiazepines work by enhancing the effect of GABA, a neurotransmitter that calms brain activity. But the brain over time becomes dependent on this external support, re- reducing its own GABA production and receptor sensitivity. And long-term use can result in cognitive decline, memory problems, and emotional blunting. When attempting to stop benzodiazepines, the withdrawal process can be particularly severe, especially if the medication is stopped abruptly. Benzodiazepine withdrawal is characterized by a wide range of symptoms, including sleep disturbances, irritability, heightened anxiety, depression, panic attacks, hand tremors, shaking, restless leg syndrome, sweating, difficulty concentrating, confusion, cognitive impairment, memory problems, dry mouth, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, weight loss, burning sensations and pain in the upper spine, palpitations, headaches, nightmares, burning sensations, nightmares, tinnitus, muscular pain and stiffness, various perceptual changes, and in more severe cases, depersonalization, seizures, and suicidal ideation. And for some, withdrawal symptoms can persist for months or even years. Antipsychotics, on the other hand, primarily target the brain's dopamine receptors and in some cases influence other neurotransmitters like serotonin. While these medications can effectively manage psychoses, they also suppress normal dopamine activity, which can lead to side effects such as emotional flattening, cognitive dulling, and physical symptoms like tardive dyskinesia. Long-term use has been associated with structural brain changes, including reduction in brain volume. When discontinuing antipsychotics, withdrawal symptoms often include agitation, insomnia, anxiety, nausea, and a return of the psychotic symptoms. Benzodiazepines are more likely to create a physical dependence and carry a higher risk of severe withdrawal symptoms, including life-threatening seizures. Antipsychotic withdrawal, while not usually life-threatening, carries significant risk of the return of psychoses, which can have a severely destabilizing effect on the individual. And both medications can impair cognitive and emotional functioning over time. Discontinuing antidepressants, particularly SSRIs, can lead to symptoms of headaches, dizziness, fatigue, insomnia, irritability, mood swings, nausea. Also, brain zaps, which are sensations of electric shocks within the head. Going off of any of these medications, there's often a heightened awareness of an intensification of both emotions and bodily sensations as the person's system adapts to functioning without the dampening effects of these medications. One of my greatest concerns when I see people either on these medications, tapering off of them, or having completely discontinued them is that being on these medications has, in many ways, stunted their development. They're not as thoroughly, or at least they haven't been, processing their cognitive and emotional responses to their many lived experiences. And therefore, they're not deriving or haven't been deriving the essential nutrients that come from this digestive process. As a result, they're not developing many of the crucial coping faculties and other resources needed to mature, leaving them stunted in their development. What I find in working with these individuals is that there's a catching up to do developmentally. Rather than being overwhelmed, the sessions facilitate the changes that enable them to digest the backlog of the unprocessed lived experiences, the stresses, and their emotional responses. At the same time, the sessions I facilitate help to build a strong internal foundation that's building an infrastructure within their bodies and minds. And that translates to an increased coping capacities, a greater ability to navigate life's challenges, heightened awareness of themselves and of other people, and of their surroundings. Although I much prefer to see people pursue dietary changes, supplements, therapeutic interventions, including psychotherapy, and other natural solutions, I am not entirely against the use of psychotropic medications. I am open to whatever best serves the needs of the individual, especially if they in any way pose a danger to themselves or others. There have been situations where a person who either showed up in one of my classes, came to me for an individual session, or that I encountered in some other context. Either they were hearing voices, having conversations with the gods, or demonstrating other severe psychiatric symptoms. For example, one random 20 something woman out of nowhere just started screaming at me and making violent threats when I was shopping in Whole Foods on Houston Street in Lower Manhattan. On another occasion, I was on the ACE subway on 8th Avenue and 14th Street. And there was another young woman in squat position, and she was screaming her head off, losing her shit in the middle of the subway. I feel, and I've gotten a similar response from many people that I've either worked with or had conversations with, especially those who have been prescribed some of these medications, that many psychiatrists are incredibly short-sighted in the way that they're prescribing these medications. While these drugs may control certain symptoms, and they may be, in some instances, the best known solution, they often come with a range of very serious side effects. In fact, I encourage you or anyone taking or even considering going on these medications, please do your homework and thoroughly research the potential side effects. Many psychiatrists work within a model that emphasizes medications as the primary treatment option. And this is partly because psychiatrists typically have shorter appointment times compared to psychotherapists, focusing primarily on diagnosis and symptom and medication management. Additionally, psychiatric training often prioritizes pharmacological solutions over non medication approaches such as psychotherapy or holistic interventions. And healthcare systems and insurance models further reinforce this emphasis by favoring medications as a quicker and more easily measurable treatment option compared to time intensive therapies. In other words, just throw drugs at the problem and hope it goes away. Dietary changes and supplements play a significant role in supporting brain health and cognitive functioning in individuals suffering from conditions such as depression, anxiety, and schizophrenia. Proper nutrition provides many of the essential elements the brain needs to function optimally, while targeted supplementation can address specific deficiencies and imbalances that often accompany mental health issues. For example, eliminating inflammatory foods such as refined sugars, trans fats, processed foods can reduce systemic inflammation, which is a known contributor to neuroinflammation and mood disorders. Incorporating nutrient dense foods like leafy greens, fatty fish, nuts, and seeds can provide critical vitamins and omega 3 fatty acids that support neurotransmitter production and reduce oxidative stress. Supplements can also address deficiencies in key nutrients that are commonly linked to mental health issues. For instance, omega 3 fatty acids, particularly EPA and DHA, have been shown to reduce symptoms of depression and anxiety by improving cell membrane fluidity and promoting healthy neurotransmitter function. Vitamin D, often deficient in individuals with depression, plays a key role in facilitating mood and reducing inflammation. B vitamins, particularly B6, B9, folate, and B12, are essential for producing neurotransmitters like serotonin, dopamine, and GABA, which influence mood and emotional stability. Magnesium, another essential nutrient that is often deficient, helps calm the nervous system and supports sleep, which is essential for mental well being. Additionally, specific amino acids like tryptophan and tyrosine can be used to support neurotransmitter synthesis, while antioxidants like glutathione and N-acetylcysteine combat oxidative stress and protect brain cells. Probiotics and a focus on gut health can also play a crucial role as the gut brain axis influences neurotransmitter production and inflammation levels. And for individuals with schizophrenia, targeted interventions such as addressing blood sugar imbalances, reducing gluten, and providing zinc or niacin supplements can help stabilize mood and reduce cognitive dysfunction. Having trained for years with a traditional Native American doctor, a medicine man, and going through so many vision quests to heal my own traumatic wounding, I'm able to serve as a conduit, allowing an extraordinarily powerful presence to work through me to facilitate healing within the bodies and minds of those I work with. And these sessions often restore and, in some instances, establish for the first time a much healthier level of brain functioning. Healthy brain functioning involves a seamless communication between neurons through well-functioning synapses, supported by balanced neurotransmitter activity and hormonal processes. The synapses are the connections between neurons that allow signals to pass efficiently, encouraging cognitive clarity and emotional stability. Neurotransmitters like serotonin, dopamine, and GABA regulate mood, motivation, and enhanced emotional resilience. Also, hormonal processes such as cortisol regulation helps to manage stress more efficiently. And then there's oxytocin, which operates both as a hormone and a neurotransmitter, and that helps to encourage emotional bonding. When these systems work in harmony, people experience greater mental clarity, emotional balance, and overall well being. I've observed life transforming changes in the people that I've worked with, and many develop much greater self awareness, the ability to access their own emotions, thereby enabling them to digest their lived experiences and emotional responses more effectively. As their healing deepens, these individuals become noticeably more present, engaging, more emotionally connected with themselves and with others. With that being said, I do want to be cautious not to build false hope in any way. I've found that people vary tremendously in their responsiveness. Some individuals are not quite as responsive, and that's often due to a number of factors. Maybe it has to do with the severity of some innate brain dysfunction or resulting from prolonged use of psychotropic medications or even recreational drugs like crystal meth. It's also important to emphasize that this work is not a one and done deal. Those who have shown consistency with this work have, in most instances, shown considerable improvement. Another example I'll share is for years, I was commuting between New York City and Boston, where I worked part time. My housemate in Boston initially is quite intelligent, very accomplished in some ways, had been steadily declining in his mental health. And that was largely due to a combination of AIDS, ADHD, bipolar disorder, and recreational drug use, and the numerous medications that he was taking to address all these issues, which included Adderall and Ativan. And although my housemate was hesitant to ask me for help, largely because I helped him to secure the funding that covered about 2/3 of his monthly rent, his condition was deteriorating to the point where I was beginning to consider finding another living arrangement. I think it got to the point he was even realizing the seriousness of the matter And so he agreed when I offered to step in to be of assistance. And the changes in his mental state and his ability to function were profound. Even our landlord, who had reached her limits with his behavior, was amazed by the difference. I myself was shocked to see the difference. Like, it brought him back to the person I had known like years prior. And for me, that was a huge relief. It was just much easier to relate to and get along with him. Whether or not you go on any form of psychotropic medication is a deeply personal decision that ultimately only you can make. And some considerations include your current state of mental health, whether there's some kind of organic brain dysfunction impacting your ability to function or your state of mind. Are you in the midst of an immediate crisis and in need of intervention to help you cope more effectively? Have you consulted with your psychiatrist or other mental health professionals? Have you sought the advice of a psychiatrist who does not rely so heavily on medications as the solution to every mental health challenge? Have you looked into diet and supplements, psychotherapy, and alternative health modalities to help you manage your emotions, your state of mind, and to navigate any crisis you may currently be facing in your life? Ultimately, my hope is that you will make the informed decision that is best for you. Hey, thank you for joining with me today, for watching, especially if you got all the way through this. Do click like and subscribe if you found value in what I've had to share with you. And I'll leave you with that for now.